A few months ago, Farr and Swit sent me one of their fully loomed wayfinders to check out. But that wasn't the only thing they sent. In fact, they sent a lot of somethings. Maybe too many somethings. If you haven't seen this one yet, it's the Retro Digital Mixtape, which is basically a Microbrand version of a Casio F91, done in a variety of colors, 2 different sizes, and all with this very retro theme to them. Now obviously this one isn't going to be for everyone, but I think it's pretty cool that a Microbrand went to the effort of doing it. Heck, I'd love to see more Microbrand digital watches out there. Other than this, I can only think of a couple others. So even if you didn't grow up on tap water and neglect like most of us Gen Xers, you should at least know some more about this one, because it's interesting. On their site, they list these as Mixtape 1 and Mixtape 2, and as far as I can tell, there really isn't any difference between them, other than the text on the top of the case. But the main thing to pay attention to is the different colors and the plastics used here, as well as there are 2 different sizes. There's the regular version, which is 35mm wide and more in line with the classic F91. And then there's the XL version, it's about 41mm wide. Now, both versions are 10mm thick and have 50 meters of water resistance. So they're not the most robust watches out there, but neither is the Casio. Between the two, I actually wound up liking the bigger one better, and that surprised me, as the normal version is more classic looking and more comfortable on the wrist. But the thing is, the screen is also smaller, and maybe this is because I'm getting a little bit older and my eyes are getting older as well, because the bigger one has a nicer, wider, easier to read display. And another thing that I noticed is that the speaker in the XL is definitely louder. So if you're always setting alarms, that's definitely the one for you. Now, I'm not exactly sure what module is being used in these, but functionally it works just like a Casio F91, with maybe the backlight being a little bit better than what I remember on a Casio. And for better or worse, the quality of the watches here, as well as the straps they come on, is also on par with that Casio. And by that, I mean it feels a little cheap on the wrist. It's not like some of the full metal Casio mods that I've reviewed. But just like a regular Casio, it is a fairly inexpensive watch, and it's supposed to feel that way. These are selling for about $35 to $40 depending on the version. Now, they're more than a Casio, but in the world of watch collecting, it's still kind of a drop in the bucket. And with the theming, I think they kind of need to be that cheap. I mean, this whole retro tape thing, it's fun, but also a little bit goofy. And it's not something I can see a lot of people spending a lot of money on. But at this price, you can afford to have something a little fun and goofy. And I should also point out that they also put out a special Halloween version that's more of an 80s slasher VHS movie. And that's an idea I think is awesome. Now, while the theming here is fun and goofy, and in some ways they kind of need something to help them stand out from the regular Casios, but the problem is that it also extremely limits who this watch is going to appeal to. Basically, this is solidly one for the Gen Xers out there. And not even all the Gen Xers. I mean, for myself, I was born in the very late 70s, so I'm still Gen X. But by the time I was in high school, CDs were more prevalent. And while my first car had a tape deck, back then one of the first things we all did was go to Circuit City and try to swap in something with a CD changer. And then inevitably get pissed off when the CD changer jams up or breaks. If you ever had one, you know what I'm talking about. But my main point is that I do love the idea of a Microbrand digital, and I can appreciate the design here, even if this isn't necessarily for me as I don't have the same nostalgia. Although as a side note, I do think they missed a huge opportunity with the caseback. The caseback they have is more of a standard Casio kind of a thing. But for those that remember the old Maxwell cassettes and the dude sitting in the chair getting blown away by the stereo, they should have done something with that. That would have been perfect. But anyway, like I was saying, I know they got to do something a little bit different just to differentiate it from a Casio, make it sort of stand out and a reason to get it over that. But I do wonder if they're not missing out on some opportunities by not having a regular non-themed version. And especially with some of these clear plastic cases, I think those look really cool. Or if they're going to continue with the theming, maybe they need to expand out into other decades. And going back to these clear plastic versions, they actually remind me more of the mid to late 90s. Kind of that time period where Nintendo started introducing some clear plastic Game Boys. Or when Apple introduced the first iMac, the G3 iMacs in all their different rainbow Appleness. And in some ways, you could even go back a little bit further, like back to the 70s with the XL versions by making them an 8-track version. Bottom line, this is kind of a short review because with these, what you see is really what you're getting with them. And what you're getting is basically a Microbrand F91 replacement. One that's not only functionally, but quality-wise about the same. However, what sets them apart is these cool, interesting case colors, and for better or worse, some totally bodacious 80s theming. It's a fun watch, it's a cheap watch, and if you're smiling while I'm doing this review and you're kind of checking them out, it might be worth picking one up. Now, as usual, you guys know what to do down below. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about this one and all that stuff. I'm Shane, this is Relative Time, and I'll see you next time.